and his two small moles who were stained from ear to smock with crimson juice, shaking a wooden spoon at them as they stuffed strawberries into their mouths with both paws. Not another one, do you hear me? Stop immediately! Through the mouthful of fruit, one of the mole babes explained patiently to the infirmity sister why they had to complete their self-appointed task. Nay, Mama, since it's only eating the ones that are bad for you. Or it's a hard job for you like these and of these infants. The sister did not share their viewpoint. The only thing that's gone bad are your tummies. You'll be sick as you stuffed frogs, and a pair of you now. Stop this instant. All the Dibbins froze as Gregor's voice boomed severely through the kitchen. Just point out any Dibbins who's been pinching strawberries, and I'll deal with them by the thunder and seasons of my stripes, I will. The Mobay Wugger tugged Friar Buddy's habit cord and whispered, Yes, sir, Buddy. Don't ye tell Badger Mums it's pinching strawberries, or we won't tell on ye.
Nice. Those Dibbins, they are rascals. The old friar winked secretly at Wooga and spoke out loud. Gregor, Mom, how could you say such things? I'm sure none of the Dibbins would be so villainous as to pinch strawberries. They're merely helping to carry them in and stacks the baskets. A chorus of agreement burst from the Dibbins. Yes, Sir Friar, be right, Mom. Orsons be good and beasts. No, pinching strawberries, not whatsoever. Gregor nodded solemnly. Well, I'm very glad to hear, because once, many seasons before any of you were born, we had a Dibbin at Redwall. Who? Do you remember what happened to him, Sister Slowy? Slowy pursed her lips forbiddingly as she continued the tale. Oh, I recall that one right enough. He ate strawberries from dawn to dusk on the day of the harvest. Never listened to a word we had told him to stop. Kept on pinching and scoffing all the biggest and juiciest ones. Guess what happened to him as he was on the stairs to the dormitory? Slowy gazed around at the wide-eyed Dibbins hanging on her every word. Suddenly she clapped her paws sharply and shouted out. He went bang! Just like that! Exploded. Was never seen again. Isn't that right, Fire Bunty? The old squirrel nodded sadly. Aye, that's what happened, sister. You can still see the red mark he left halfway up the stairs. Poor greedy little mite. Shocked and horrified Dibbins unloaded strawberries from their smock pockets back into the baskets. Stunned by the fate of the gluttonous Dibbin in the far-gone seasons, they rushed from the kitchen, squeaking and shouting as they headed for the dormitory stairs, where the incident was reputed to have taken place. When they had gone, Grega popped a strawberry into her mouth, chuckling. That story works every time. I wonder what that bright red mark on the stairs is, though. Feels quite smooth. Probably a lump of quartz in the stone. Who's that in the background? Oh, this is Mother Gloom. She is reading. She's a librarian. And joining us for this stream.
Yes. Nutwing. What? Am I here, right? Are we here?
Yeah, no.
Right here. Alright. He watched Gregor feel around in the basket beside her for another large strawberry. I've seen it. A bit too big for the Dibbin. Must have been greedy Badger who would have stopped pinching strawberries, eh? Tragle Spearback, the cellar keeper, an immense hedgehog, lumbered in, stuffing both paws in his wide canvas apron pocket. He grinned and he winked at Nutwing. I'm a heptoir of a wagger. A badger now then, old bunty. Which ones are mine? Make sure they're good and juicy, enough to brew into a barrel of strawberry fizz. Friar Buddy did his rounds of the basket, sniffing and prodding gently at the fruit they contained, and marking certain ones with a charcoal stick. Those should be enough for you, Treglo. A dozen good baskets. Sister Slowly, you take this one to sweeten up those herb potions you give to sick Dibbins. Brother Millet, a fat dormouse emerged from an unlit oven with scrubbing brush and a pail in his paws. Last time I let moles make damson jam in my oven. Sticks like glue when it bubbles over. Do you want me, Friar? But he indicated the unmarked basket. These are all yours. What do you plan on making? Strawberry tarts, obviously. I noticed a pot of red currant jelly cooling on the windowsill as I came in. Mellet took off his greasy apron and began tying on a freshly laundered one. Strawberry tarts are for sure, with good short crust pastry and lots of whipped mellow cream on top. I'll probably do some strawberry pear flans too, and a big strawberry trifle if you'll be good enough to help me, Friar. Buddy agreed willingly. Oh, yes, and an extra big trifle with plums and raspberries in it too. Every beast began contributing his ideas of what made the perfect trifle.
Thanks for stopping by, aka Choppa. And lots of flaked almonds and hazelnuts sprinkled on top. Aye, with a good beaker of elderberry wine poured in. Be sure to set it in blackberry jelly with lots of honey sponge slices to make it nice and soggy. Sweet arrowroot custard too, good and deep. Bar, a girt goblets of clotted meadow cream atop that. The discussion was interrupted when a stocky elder squirrel strode in with a young one in his wake, both carrying pails in either paw. The older squirrel, Rooseful, was obviously hot and rather irritated. Any beast interested in lending a paw to fetch water from the pond for the orchard out there? Seems to be only me and my son left to do it. Grega placed a paw upon her brow. Oh, I'm sorry, Roosevelt. I meant to send Nutwing over to tell you the orchard's been watered enough for today. Nutwing smiled behind his pebble-thick glasses. Glad I'm not the only creature who forgets things. Roosevelt had been at Redwall less than 3 seasons. He had been a wanderer and a warrior, but when his wife had died, he had come to stay at Redwall, bringing with him his son, Danaflor, a quiet young squirrel. Both were strong and good workers. Roosevelt had changed since the death of his wife. He was no longer the happy-go-lucky creature of the former days, but was often quick to take offense and sometimes difficult to get on with. He nodded at the creatures assembled in the kitchens and turned to Danaflor. Let's put these pails away and wash up before lunch, son. Outside, the Abbey pool seemed to cool Roosevelt down a bit. Danaflor washed his paws in silence, watching his father sluice water across his face with both paws, blowing and snorting as it entered his nostrils. Danaflor glanced up at the sky. Wish it rained. Then there'd be no need to carry water, eh? All right, Tamila.
Yes?
You're up. Let's see it.
Rustful wiggled upon one ear to get the water out. Aye, son, wouldn't have been a bad idea for some beast to tell us the orchard had enough water and all. Danford shrugged good-naturedly. It's not the Badger Mom's fault. She forgot. She carries as much water as both of us earlier on. Buskell nodded grudgingly and agreed. Maybe she did. But this place needs a leader. An abbot or an abyss. I liked old Abbot Arvin when he was alive. Things seemed to run smoother. Danford dried his paws on the grass. That's 'cause Arvin was a warrior in one time like you. Probably the reason you got on so well together. Rossville smiled, one of his rare smiles, that he flicked a pebble at his son. True enough, Dan. Me and you are the only warriors left in Redwall now, and we'll get on well together, don't we? Danforth caught the pebble, skimmed it out over the pond. Of course we've got on, 'cause I'm your son, and you're my dad. but I've never been in a fight or seen a battle, so you could have really called me. You couldn't really call me a warrior. I've only a dibbin before we came here, you know. Rustwell's eyes hardened. He took his son's paw and he held it tight. But you are a warrior, Danflower. I know it. The blood of warriors runs in your veins. Never forget that, son. They rose together and walked toward the orchard, where lunch was being served. In the shade of the trees, Danflower paced easily beside his father. But Redwall Abbey's the most peaceful place a creature could wish to be. How will I know when I become a warrior? Rustwell stopped, stared at him. Your name is Danford Rugby. An ancient squirrel language, the Rugby was the greatest warrior in all the land. I am called Reguba, sure. Something, as my father was before me. When danger threatens, and you'll have to face the phobies, then you will know that you are Reguba, bravest of the brave.
Lunch was a fairly simple one. Sliced fruits, apple, pear, green gage and plum, some fresh baked scones and damson jelly, and dandelion burdock cordial, foamy and cold with Trangalo's cellar hog vaults. Roosevelt sat chatting with Trangalo, while Danaflor chose to sit next to Grega. The badger mum reached out a huge paw and ran it gently over his face. Are you troubled, Dan? What's going on in that mind of yours? The young squirrel sucked foam noisily from the top of his beaker. Not so much troubled as puzzled, Mom. They say you were a great warrior. My father likes the company of warriors, but he never seems to talk any length with you. Why's that? Grega shrugs lightly, her blind eyes facing straight ahead. Because probably I never talk about my seasons as a fighter. That's all in the dead past to me. Peace and this beautiful abbey are what's matter in my life now. Do you like Redwall, Dan? I like it a lot. It's a real home to me. Grega smiled, nodding her great striped head. Good. 'Tis my home too. Though I've never seen it with my eyes. I was blinded in battle before I arrived at Redwall. Do me a favor, Dan. Look at it and tell me what you see. You can be my eyes. Go on, let's see if we both live in the same place. Danaflor held the blind badger mum's paw as he spoke. A path runs from north to south, and Redwall stands by the side of it. Moss flower wood grows around the north and east walls, partially on the south. A big main threshold gate faces the path, with the little gatehouse just inside. The outer walls are high, thick and solid, built from old red sandstone, like the rest of the abbey.
Battlements and wide wall top run around the outer walls, making it like a safe fortress.
That's so cool.
Yep. Hey.
Hi, Styles Retro. This is Mother Gloom.
Hello.
We are reading together today.
Fun. All right, they're talking about Redwall, making it a life of safe fortress. Inside, there are gardens and lawns, a pond and an orchard, but in the middle of all stands the abbey. It's a huge old building, very high, with a weather vane atop the great long roof, and marvelous stained glass windows, great arches and columns. Built against one side is a bell tower, with 2 bells inside, which are tolled at dawn, midday, twilight, and softly at midnight. I like the bells. They have a warm and friendly sound, as if they're watching over us. Craiga squeezed the young squirrel's paw gently. You have a good eye and a kind heart, Danford. Your picture of our abbey is the same as the one I carry in my imagination. While they had been talking, the sky was starting to cloud over from the southeast. Gradually at first, but the clouds increased as a breeze sprang to drive them along. blotting out the blue summer noon. Friar Buddy, he felt his footpaw twinge again. Ha ha! I knew it! We'll have rain before long, friends. Splot, splat. Two large raindrops hit the leaves of the plum tree, one of them rolling down to burst on Farmel's Goodbow's nose. I rain bain't to have wanted on your word, buddy, if you're right now. As the mole spoke, long-awaited rain came splattering and battering suddenly down, a proper summer storm, driven sideways on the wind. Thunder rumbled afar, with a distant lightning flash flaring briefly in the east. Dust turned immediately to mud. Dry yellow grass was flattened against the wet earth, and tremendous din of countless large drops pattering against the foliage and rapping upon the tree trunks as it hissed around the abbey virtually drowned out all other sound. Brother Mellet and Rustful swept the linen spread off the ground, knotting it loosely in a large sack. With foodstuffs and dishes inside, they bore it off between them to the abbey. Grega Badgermarm boomed out the din. Every beast inside! Ambling sideways, she shielded many of the elders and young ones with her bulk. Sister Slow, as she tugged on Treglow's apron, rain pouring down her face upon her open mouth as she called to him.
Yes, this is Mother Gloom. She is reading with us today. She is the famous librarian from California, the Dragon Librarian. And she is here to lead you on your journey in Redwall.
Love it.
Alrighty. Mr. Tringolo, there's two Dibbins knots here. Danaflor joined them, his fur plastered flat by the downpour. That'll be the two mole babes, Mom. Wugger and Blinny. They went off toward the gatehouse as my father and I were coming up from the pond. Tringolo Spearback shooed Sister Slowy off to the abbey. You get yourself indoors, Mom. Me and young Dan will find 'em. Danaflor and Trangolo dashed across the lawn, heads down, footpaws sloshing and slapping through the wet grass as the thunder boomed closer and the great fork of jagged lightning rent the sky asunder. Both creatures were driven flat against the gatehouse wall by the wind and stood there for a moment, regaining their breath before fighting their way around the gatehouse door. It was flapping back and forth, for Blunty had left it open, and they hurried inside out of the storm. Tringolo cast a quick eye about. Little rascals, they ain't here, Dan, and we never passed 'em on the way here. The young squirrel wiped rain from his eyes on a window curtain. Let's think, I know. Maybe they're up on the wall top. Dibbins are always being told not to go up there, so there's likely place for them to be. Sheeting rain swept the ramparts, dancing across the stones and gurgling noises out of the small downspouts, so heavy that that visibility was virtually nil. Trangolo and Danaflor were running almost doubled up past the north battlements when a peal of thunder exploded with frightening force directly overhead. In the crackle of chain lightning that followed, the hedgehog pointed to the northeast garble, and the two small figures huddled there.
Oh, poor little things. Oh, here, yeah. What?
Yep.
Was you talking to them funny beasts in your woods, Marm? Funny beasts? What funny beasts? There were two of them, Marm. There was black and blue and were girt cloakers. Danafor had trouble keeping a straight face. Wugga was obviously making up some kind of story to justify his visit to the wall top. Two funny creatures, all white and black and blue, wearing great cloaks. Uh-huh. What did you say to them? Us didn't say what nothing. They're asking could they come in down if we could come down and eat like a wall gate for 'em. And what did you say? Us wasn't gonna do it. We rain comed, and then us was too frightened to move. So what happened to the two funny beasts? Wager spread both paws and blinked. Them are gone. Just vanished like that, yes, sir. Danforth smiled. Danforth smiled and winked at Tregla, who nodded understandingly at the mole babes, as if all made sense. Oh, right you be, Wugger, and those two funny beasts just vanished, you say? Wugger nodded, his little face completely serious. Aye, sir, that's right. Sister slowly wagged her severe paw under his nose. You've eaten too many strawberries and you've made yourself ill. Straight to the bed, you two, you young mole. You too, blimey. Both of you had quite enough for one day. Pinching strawberries, playing on the wall, and thunderstorms, and telling a pack of fibs. Now, not another peep out of either of you. Straight upstairs this instant. Looking the picture of dejection, the two tiny moles, first standing up from their toweling, were led off to the dormitories by Sister Slowly. Friar Buddy smiled at Nutwig. Black and white and blue creatures with great cloaks that vanished into the thin air. What do you think of that? What will they think of next?
That will dried his spectacles off on a towel corner. I blame the elders, telling tales of strawberry thieves who went bang and were never seen again, save for a red patch on the stairs. Little wonder that Dibbins grow up telling fibs or hearing stories like that. Outside, the mid-afternoon resembled night as the storm roared around Redwall Abbey, lashing its ancient stones and causing the mossflower treetops to sway wildly in its grip. Snug inside their comfortable abbey, the creatures of Redwall, now warm and dry, took their ease in safety and calm. Chapter 4. Do you want to read another chapter?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You can read one more.
Okay.
And we can probably call it, because these are long chapters.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a long chapter.
All right.
10 pages.
Yeah.
Probably be another 30 minutes.
We got it.
Cool. Chapter 4 already, indeed.
Wow, that was fast.
Um,
You're a good reader. Wow.
Thank you. You are too. My mother said I'm a good reader.
Yes, it is.
Jangler Swifteye unfastened the tent canvas from his back and tossed it expertly across two rocks that stood a small distance apart on a knoll overlooking a storm-swollen stream. Grimrose and Song weighted the canvas down with flat slabs of stone placed on its edges, where they lapped the ground, working quickly, their heads bowed against the pelting rain. Grandma Eleu hurried into the covered space between the rocks and swept out wet leaves, creating a dry floor inside the makeshift shelter. Jangaloo dropped the last large slab on the rear of the canvas, making sure it was stretched taut so that it would not fill up and belly inward upon them. Straightening up, he blew rainwater from the tip of his nose, blinking hard against the scything curtains of wind-driven wetness. Rimrose and Song were already inside under cover, and Uleu called out urgently to her son, "Get you in here fast afore the thunder bangs again." Dropping on all four, the big squirrel scrambled into the confined shelter space, the others moving aside to make room for him. Aleu jumped instinctively as a thunderclap sounded overhead. Jangaloo put a paw around her comfortingly. "There now, Mum. No need to be jumping about like a toad on a cinder. Thundering won't harm ye."
Juggler muttered to Song out of the side of his mouth. Just as well they can't hear your grandma snoring in this little lot. Now, be still now. Here comes another. The second logboat forged along in the wake of the first. Jaguar moved forward, poking his head out into the rain, peering upstream. There's more of them. Another 4 if I ain't mistaken. Never seen aught like this before. I'm gonna take a look. You stay put, Song. You know we're in danger, as if you needn't know. Don't wake your mom and your grandma. What they don't know can't hurt them. Be back soon. Not far from the knoll, where they had camped, a big, gnarled, cracked willow overhung part of the stream. Jaguar Swift-Eye climbed it with surprising speed and grace for a squirrel of his size and weight. Skipping nimbly along one of the main limbs that bent over the water, he tested it for firmness. 2 more longboats had passed beneath the willow, their occupants unaware of the presence of the squirrel overhead. Jaguar looped his tail and footpaws firmly around the sturdy bow, hanging downward almost as if he were part of the tree. Another longboat bobbed past on the turbulent waters. He let it sail by beneath him, noting that all the vessels were packed with water rats. Not the only marl foxes were the two, but the only marl foxes were the 2 in the lead boats. Unwinding the sling from his waist, Jaguar readied himself as the final craft shot towards the willow. A foaming bow wave curling either side as it piled the water. 3 rats in the stern were bailing busily as the logboat sped past beneath the watching Jaguar. The hindmost rat bent to scoop up a bowlful of water. Suddenly a noose settled around his neck and a paw clamped around his mouth like a vice. The rat's footpaws were hauled swiftly clear of the scrubblers, and the logboat shot out without him, his companions not even noticing his departure. Jaguar flopped the water rat up over the willow limb, like a landed fish, dealing with him a sharp blow between the ears and jaw side.
Working efficiently, he sat him on the branch, whipped the sling from the stunned rodent's neck, and bound his middle to the tree. A soft moan escaped the rat's lips as he began to come around. Jaguar patted his cheek playfully. "Hush-a-bye now, me old collie. You sit there a while until you're ready and willing to do a bit of talking." Song watched her father emerge out of the sheeting rain. He was carrying a bundle and whistling cheerfully between 2 front teeth. One of the lazy hooded eyes winked slyly at her as he ducked to enter the shelter. "Found some nice dry pine wood back there. Must be the only bit of timber left in Mossflower that ain't wet this evening." Song unearthed the knife and took tinder and flint from their pack. Striking the flint against the spine of the blade, she blew softly on the bright sparks that fell on the dry, mossy tinder. A thin blue column of smoke rewarded her efforts, followed by a glow and a tiny flame. Jaguar began adding pine splinters until he had a sufficient fire going to pile on some of the pine billets. Wakened by the smell of wood, Rimrose held her paws out to the flame gratefully. "A nice fire. Would you two like something to eat?" Grandma Eleo's voice came from the back of the shelter. "I, us 3, would like something, a bite if you don't mind." The last of their provisions was made into an acceptable meal. Song sliced up the final piece of Rimrose traveling fruit honey cake, while her grandma brewed a kettle of mint and comfrey tea. Rimrose had saved 4 oatcakes and a small wedge of cheese. She toasted the cheese and oatcakes together. The family sat by the fire, staring into the rain-swept night as they ate. Later, Jaguar took out his flute and played an encouraging song to sing. You want to sing it?
No, you sing it. I think you do well.
The Indian hype, Kyle, yes. This is Mother Gloom, if you have not met her. We are reading Moral Fox today. It is about some foxes in Mossflower. And they are causing a ruckus. Now let me sing you a song. I once knew an ant, and I knew him right well. This ant had lived in a hazelnut shell. He had relations to count by the score. They used to come knocking on his tiny door. Once was called Distance. He lived far away. Another was Pleasant. He'd bid you good day. The third was Constance. He never was away. There was a hesitant, not sure he'd stay. A poor old reluctant, not too true. And one called Valiant, stout and true. Now I'll tell you the reason they all came to call. 'Cause this ant was the most important of all.
I love it.
A fun little ditty. You're right.
As the final echo of the ballad died away, a gruff voice called from the stream bank, causing Ella-yo to jump with fright. Well sung, young missy. You've got a fair pretty voice on ya. Song immediately grabbed for her father's knife, but Juggler stayed her paw, a smile flinting across his half-closed eyes as he replied, Aye, better than an old scrag-furred screw who could sing, I'll wager. Surrounded by a party of gossams, Log-a-Log strode up to the shelter. Ha, ha, ha! Juggler Swift-Eye, you great fat branch bounder, I heard you was dead 3 seasons back. Juggler shook his old friend's paw heartily. Log-a-Log Gossam, you big-bellied beast, I heard you died more 4 seasons ago. The shrew threw a paw about the squirrel's shoulders. Well, we must be the 2 healthiest ghosts in the woodlands. Introductions were made all around. The shrews joined their old logboat sails, which they carried with them to Juggler's shelter. Using oars and dead branches and taking advantage of the nearby bushes, they soon extended the cover area. Log-a-Log sat by the fire, gratefully accepting a bowl of tea from Ella-yo, while he, I think I got the right page, yep, told Juggler of what had befallen him and his tribe.
The squirrel listened intently, then told Log-a-Log of his first encounter with the Marl Foxes. The shrew scratched his ear thoughtfully. Do you think the 2 you met are the same 2 who stole our boats? Jingler shook his head empathetically. Impossible. We are too far apart. But I saw the 2 foxes that took your boats this very evening. Log-a-Log's paw grabbed his rapier hilt. You saw 'em? Where? They sailed right by here. Round about twilight, 6 boats, loads of 'em. Water rats with 2 foxes sitting forward in the first boat that passed. So I went to take a look. So tell me, what do you see? The squirrel's long lashes flicked idly. Wasn't much to see. I figured they wouldn't stop to chat with me, so I worked the old rear ambush and captured one. Log-a-Log leapt up and drew his rapier. You captured one? Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Jangler rose with a sigh. Because you called me fat and said I was 3 seasons dead. Come on. Looking so injured, and I'll take you to see him. The water rat was fully conscious, but his face showed little emotion as Jangler loosed the bonds and hauled him down from the cracked willow. Log-a-Log's rapier point was swiftly at the rodent's throat. The shrew's voice dipped menacingly. Now, matey, you're going to do a bit of fast talking. Who are these Marl Foxes? How many of them is there? And what doing in these parts? Make it easy on yourself and speak. The rat's face was blank, his eyes devoid of either fear or hatred of his captors. Jangler prodded the rat's chest with a hard paw. Where do you come from? And are you from the same place as those foxes?
are you?
Okay, I will.
Okay, I gotcha.
I don't go on Instagram much, but sure. Go for it, one.
I hear they come from the secret island at the center of the Great Lake. Tell us about it. Who rules there? The rat's expression never changed. The Log noticed that his paws were trembling visibly. The shrew leaned close to Jagalot and spoke into a whisper so the water rat could not hear them. What do you make of this, one mate? Mayhap is mute. Look out! Before either creature could stop him, the rat dashed back a few paces, flung himself into the swift-flowing stream. Log and Jaguar rushed to the water's edge and stood helplessly, watching as the rodent was swept away on the wild racing surge. It was far too rough and speedy even for the water rat, and his paws struggled feebly against the surging mass until a broken rowan tree came hurtling like an arrow on the current. It struck the unfortunate rat, and he sank instantly. Log screwed up his face in disgust. Just always bad when a life wasted for no reason, even the life of a vermin like that. Jaguar fastened the sling back around his waist. I wouldn't say the rat's life was wasted for no reason, mate. We might have known why he did it, but no creature could live in that current, so he knew what he was doing. He must have been really terrified if he killed himself rather than betray any information. The shrew stood staring at the spot where the rat had gone down. You're right, Sweetfly. Let's go and get some sleep, mayhap. We'll find the answer to all this when we reach the Abbey of Redwall. The wandering Noonvale companion's cart was stuck up in the axes in mud. Florence wrung rain from the helms of his flock coat and bellowed mournfully, Oh, calamity, folly, and woe unto us, abroad on this night, like this mist in a hurricane, nay, a typhoon, a veritable deluge. Ah, now to cap it all, we're sinking slowly into the muddy of oblivion of a bottomless quagmire.
Brave hearts and faithful friends, 'tis a night of lamentations. Oh, alack a bally day, what? Runktrip tried unsuccessfully to block a rip in the cabinets of the covered cart with a pendant he had plastered with mud. Aye, we could do with slacking these day right enough. Pesky rain'll drive me off my spikes if it don't stop. Barcool, who was caked in mud up to the waist from trying to get the cart unstuck, grinned mirthlessly. Cheer up, we're only lost, starving, and likely to drown by morning. At least there's plenty of water to drink out here. Roop twitched his nose at the order. I bain't thirsty, thank ye, sir. Thou ain't the weather I worried over. 'Tis Dwapple. The young master's gone very quiet. I don't like it. Desm instantly leapt to the defense of her charge. You are quite heartless, Mr. Roop. See, the dear little chap is slumbering innocently. Elachim, the other otter brother, who was trying to sleep at the same end of the cart as the mouth spade, shifted his position, muttering, slumbering innocently. The wretch is snoring like thunder, and he keeps trying to eat my tail in his dreams. Mungle flung her soggy turban at the otter. Grr, don't he messin' eatin' again. Me poor stomach is a growling and growling like thunder and lightning. Dejected, Florian pulled out his battered one-string fiddle and plucked at it experimentally. Ta, confounded wet weather's knocked it all out of tune, what? Nevertheless, he scraped away at it with a tattered bow and went singing a song that he composed as he went along. Death the mother, I'm a hungry, and starving as well to boot. Oh, the back home in your orchard is so full of delicious fruit. I'll perish if I die before morning. My last thought will be of you, and a smile of father's whiskers, and a whacking great bowl of stew. Our grandpa's teeth still missing, the way I'm missing you. You're the nicest ma a son could have, and I've quite a few. Fare thee well, my dearest parents, for quite soon now I must die. But if I get home before midnight, don't let Grandma eat all the pie. Alright, you got the last stanza.
Florin's song was abruptly cut off when a soggy tunic flopped in his face. He removed the offending article, which had become tangled in his ears and whiskers, and held it up. What brought her through this? Own up immediately. What? He demanded with an air